We're not just talking about a simple property dispute here. This is a story about how the entire real estate and legal system can allegedly be turned into a weapon. And it all kicks off with one absolutely massive number.
No, this isn't a lottery jackpot. That number is the amount demanded in a single legal letter for a guy named Keith Hartl. The letter claims this staggering sum is the total loss from what it calls a really sophisticated and coordinated scheme.
So you can see this demand goes way beyond your typical business dispute. It's actually accusing a group, they call them the Wileage Network, of operating as a criminal enterprise. And they're using the powerful RICO Act, that's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Yeah, it's serious.
Okay, so to really get our heads around that $201 million figure, we've got to zoom out a bit. Because this isn't about just one deal that went south. According to the documents we're looking at, this is the climax of a saga that's been going on for 2 decades.
This document here, it's called the Hartl paradigm, and it pretty much lays out the entire alleged strategy. It talks about a systematic campaign of harassment that, get this, grew from simple code enforcement into this massive operation involving courts, private companies, and even city governments. And the supposed goal? A really nasty practice known as equity stripping.
So what exactly is equity stripping? Well, think of it like this. It's a predatory scheme where someone's ownership stake in their property, their equity, is just systematically drained away. The perpetrators use things like fraud, super complex legal tricks, or predatory loans to basically suck all the value out, leaving the original owner with all the debt but none of the actual property. It's brutal.
All right, so that's the big picture. But you're probably wondering, how does a scheme like this actually work in the real world? Let's dive into one specific real estate deal from 2025 to see exactly how these moving parts allegedly fit together.
Just look at how fast this all happens. On February 4th, Hartl has a deal in place. But then, boom, by March 21st, a surprise tax lien foreclosure is filed against that very same property. I mean, that creates an insane amount of legal and financial pressure. And then, in just a whirlwind 2 days, a brand new contract is signed, and the original one? Totally wiped out.
And this right here, this is the key piece of paper, the release of agreement from April 3rd. This thing completely canceled that first deal. Now, the lawsuit claims this was the whole point of the exercise, to basically erase Hartl's rights under the contract, while letting the network hang on to the fees they'd already squeezed out of him while he was under pressure.
All of this just raises a huge question. If these allegations are true, how on earth could a standard everyday legal filing be twisted into a weapon? Well, the answer seems to lie in a very specific legal tool.
It's called a lis pendens. All that means is it's a public notice that a piece of property has a lawsuit attached to it. Now, in theory, it's supposed to protect people in a legal fight. But in the real world, it can completely freeze a property. You can't sell it, you can't refinance it, nothing, until that lawsuit is over. So, how is this legal tool supposedly weaponized here? Well, the demand letter claims the lis pendens wasn't filed to protect some legitimate claim. No. It was filed to pressure Hartl into coughing up extra unlawful fees. And to make it all worse, they also allege that this pending lawsuit was never even mentioned in the sale contract, which is a huge no-no, a direct violation of Arizona state law.
Now, it's important to know this wasn't just one person or a single company. The lawsuit points to this really tangled web of LLCs which were allegedly set up specifically to hide who was really pulling the strings.
The demand letter lists a whole bunch of these companies, all with YLOG in the name. And the lawsuit claims they used a strategy of entity hopping, constantly creating new companies and dissolving old ones to make it almost impossible to follow the money and track what they were doing. So you might be thinking, how do you even begin to connect all these companies that look separate on paper? Well, one of the key links is something called a statutory agent. This is the official person or company that has to receive all the legal paperwork. And the best part, it's public record. So it can pull back the curtain and show you who's really running the show. And check this out. This is where the dots really start to connect. Public records show guys like Stephen Wileage and an attorney, Mark Manoyle, acting as the statutory agent for tons of different LLCs. The filings allege that these are the people at the center of it all, the main hubs connecting this whole complicated web.
And that brings us to what is maybe the most serious allegation of all. The idea that this wasn't just some private real estate scheme, but a coordinated effort to weaponize the very systems, the legal system, the civic system, that are supposed to protect us.
This quote from one of the court filings really nails it.
The claim is that all these activities that look separate on the surface, like one person's job in city government and another person's private real estate deals, weren't separate at all. They were allegedly all working together in concert toward the exact same illegal objective.
So you've got this on one side, a private real estate document. And then over here you've got official city records, code violations, foreclosures. The central argument of the lawsuit is that these two worlds, private business and public government, were secretly in cahoots.
And believe it or not, the accusations get even broader and frankly more alarming. The filings talk about a series of suspicious fires breaking out on properties involved in these disputes. They even point to a city water bill for over $36,000 for a property that they say hasn't even had water service since 2018. How does that happen?
Okay, so all of this stuff we've been talking about is the foundation for that civil RICO claim. This is a really powerful federal law that was originally created to take down the mob. What it does is it lets regular citizens who've been hurt by a pattern of criminal activity run by some kind of enterprise to sue them for the money they lost.
So yeah, that RICO claim is definitely the main event, but it's not the only thing on the table. The demand letter lays out a whole list of other claims, everything from fraudulent transfer of property and abuse of the legal system, all the way to very specific violations of Arizona's real estate disclosure laws.
And this brings us right back to those huge numbers. See, under the RICO law, if you win your case, you can get what are called treble damages, which is just a fancy way of saying 3 times the amount of money you actually lost. So that initial demand for $201 million, it could potentially balloon to over $600 million.
When you get right down to it, this whole story is about so much more than just the money. It's really about our trust in the system itself. The picture these filings paint is one where legal notices, company structures, even city codes were allegedly twisted from tools that are meant to create order into weapons for financial attack. And that really leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question.